I want to ask a question. Is it your first time? Is it your first time to be joining us? If it is your first time joining us, you can say a yes. If it is your first time joining us, you can say a yes on the chat. So I can see yeses. I can see Julie raising their hand. I'll give you an opportunity to speak, possibly at the end of the day. Before we close, I don't know why I'm not accessing my chat. Allow me to check why I'm not accessing my chat. Okay. Okay. So a minute, you can also share where you're watching the webinar from. You can also share where you're watching the webinar from, so that I can be able to get to recognize where you're watching from. So if it's your first time, you can say a yes. You can also tell us where you're watching from, so that I can be able to recognize you. You can share the link to somebody. Share the link and tell them to come. We're going to be learning about KRA findings when they take you through an audit. So it is a very interesting topic. My co-host, kindly come unisaidie kidogo. I need to see your chat so that when you ask a question, I can be able to answer. So allow me to check on that. Just allow me for 1 minute to check on that. Apology for that. I'm able now to see your chat. I can be able to read them through. Someone is saying, watching from the clean city of Kigali. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for people who are watching away from Kenya. We appreciate you. That is the essence of internet. You can be able to get to see. You can be able to get to see and to get to participate. So for the people who are saying the yeses, we've been doing webinars every month for a period of, I guess, about 4 or 5 years. So kindly get to our social media. You can like our pages, RWK Africa, and anytime we have this, you always come and learn. We always train on taxation, and there's always so much to learn. So much to learn. So I want to ask a final question. Have you been audited before? Have you ever been or tax audited? That's what I want to mean. Have you ever participated in a tax audit? I want an experience of somebody. What was the experience? What was the experience? Because today we are talking about tax audits. And a company should be audited. I hope you can hear me very well. I had a cold, but I'm much okay. Have you been audited before? Someone is saying I have a lot of background echo. I think it's because I'm trying to shout. I'll minimize on the volume so that you can hear me well. So have you ever been in a tax audit in your company, or you had something from somebody? What was the experience? So you can answer that as I share the notes again so that we can go through the webinar now. As we continue, you can ask your question on the chat. Kindly ask your question on the chat, and I'll be coming back to just see them and answer them. So I'll be navigating through to answer your questions. So if you can see my notes, you can tell me a yes. I want to put them on slideshow so that you can be able to see them properly. My goodness, today I don't know what is happening with my machine. If you can see my notes, you can share a yes. Just come. Nakuja kwa share. Just wait. Ndio hiyo nikishare. Just wait. Just wait. Haraka. Now I have to come here. Okay. Hapa. Mm. Okay. All right. If you can see my notes, you can say yes. Yes, I've been audited. I love the questions. So let's go back to the training because of the time I've spent. I'll come back to asking more questions. So today we are talking about top findings in KRA audits. And this is how the presentation will look. I will introduce the topic. I'll also talk about the types of audits. It's very important for you to understand the types of audits. Then I'll talk about the core of the training today, tax audit findings. So when KRA will look at your income tax, what are they looking for? So what will they find? What are the issues around income tax, around VAT pay, so that you get to understand at the end of the day, what are the issues that can be happening in my company that I need to take care of? Under each, there is a case study. So for income tax, there is a case study. And on that case studies, you can also further and learn about it. I also talk about tax disputes. It's a very important topic because after you've been audited, you've been assessed, they've put an assessment on the system. What is the next point? It is also important for you to be able to understand. So the objective is to let you understand, identify common tax audit triggers, understand the importance of documentation. I guess that will be the key point as we continue with when we are discussing about the tax audits and how to stay compliant. So those will be our objectives. We have a few of references. So tax is guided by acts. Tax is law. So we pulled this information from the tax laws. I'll share with you the notes so that you can be able to also go through them. So what is a tax audit? A tax audit is an examination of your tax return by tax authorities. Remember, and I've shared before, that our tax regime is self-assessment, which you sit down and you assess yourself, whether it is pay as you earn, it is VAT, all the returns, even the ones that auditor does. You sit down with the auditor, you verify your audit report before filing. It is called self-assessment. So at the end of the day, KRA is mandated to come back and verify the information that you have provided to them. So audits are now a central tool for revenue collection. So they'll come back to just check. And also there's a lot of digitization of compliance. We have the iTax e-teams that are sharing. Nowadays, KRA is doing what we call data-driven audit. Data-driven audit, meaning that they will gather information about your organization from other systems. So for instance, if they want to talk about, they want to check your income tax, they will check your VAT, how you've been doing it. They will check your corporation tax. They will check from your customers, from your supplier, especially now that we are using e-teams. It is becoming very efficient for KRA to be able to gather a lot of this data. If you are withholding agent, withholding information becomes a source of document. If somebody withheld some money from you, they also get to know. If you are paid through IFMIS, they get to know. If you imported or you exported through the IGMS system, they get to know. So there's a lot of data integration that is helping KRA gather information about your organization. So types of audit, what are some of the audits that are there? We have the self-assessment, which I've mentioned. You sit down, you assess yourself. So you sit down, you do your VAT, and you say, this month I'm going to pay 100,000. The other month I'm going to pay 50,000. The other one is a credit position. It is self-assessment. When you come to pay, KRA doesn't know how many employees you have. They don't know if you are paying them 30,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. So you sit down and you do the pay as you earn return. You pay 30,000 to KRA, 100,000. They cannot know. So it's self-assessment, and they believe in goodwill, that the information you have provided, you provided that information at utmost good faith. So that is one. We come to default assessment. Default assessments comes in when KRA want to audit you. They want to audit you. They have looked for information about your organization. They have called you. They have requested for documentation, and you have not provided. Some of us, KRA keep looking for us, and you say, oh, I'm busy. Some of us block them. You sent an email. The next point, you're going to see a default assessment on the system. So they are going to use the knowledge that they have gathered, and they're going to assess and say, out of this knowledge that we have gathered from our systems, this person, we're going to issue them a default assessment. They did not check your documents, which they had requested, but they have done a default assessment. Advanced assessment, there's something I should have done there. I should have talked about additional assessment. When I'll be sending the notes, I'm going to add that point. Additional assessment. This is where you go through the audit process. And you, for income tax, you had done a self-assessment and paid 200,000 to them. But through the audit process, they say that you're supposed to pay 5 million. Or 2 million, they do an additional assessment on the system. If you're in agreement, you do a payment plan. If you're not in agreement, you do what we call objection. We object to go to tribunal. There are so many processes which I'm going to talk about. You object that money. So it is called additional assessment on top of your self-assessment. They did additional assessment. For default assessment, if you find that 2 million, 3 million, you can go back to them and tell them, oh, now my documents are this. And they can revoke the default assessment and do the additional assessment. Advanced assessment means they have seen something extra, possibly when they were looking at your documentation, there's something that has come up, and they feel it is important to include it there. They can do an advanced assessment. Amendment assessment. This is an amendment that we do. So after doing the self-assessment, we do, I'll reorganize it again. When we do the self-assessment, you might do a self-assessment and you pay 50,000. After a month or 2 months, you feel, oh, there are some mistakes I did over this assessment. You can do an amendment return, and you do an amended assessment. From the 50,000, you say, I was supposed to pay 100,000. So you pay the difference of 50,000. That is what we call an amended assessment. What are some of the types of audits? Types of audits. So we have the desk audit, where KRA looks at your return. They look at how you've been able to file your documentation. They look at it and they ask you for records. So they will be focusing on inconsistency in return, late filing, unusual expense claims, usually the first stage before a deep filed audit. So they'll just walk through the audit, your filing. And if you have been coming here, I mentioned that most of the tax triggers come from how we file our return. Sometimes how we even do the balance sheet, it's a trigger. How we do the explanation of our expenses, it becomes a trigger. So they will look at that, they will look at those inconsistencies, and they are going to ask you. They might ask you for documents. So if they go and find that your income tax and your VAT has a variance, they'll tell you, we want to see your sales ledger, we want to see your bank statement so that we can verify the position. And you can take the document to them, they go through it before they give you a findings. The next one is field audit. This is on site where KRA comes to your organization to verify your books. So when they come and visit, of course, they are going to even see the premises, ask questions about how you started the business, who are the directors, and so many things they'll be checking. But they want to verify, physical verification of the books, especially organizations that have a lot of records. You find KRA preferring to come so they can sit for 3, 4 days, even a week, even weeks, depending on your business. They look at your invoices, stock records, payroll, and also other significant gaps. They're not just looking for books, they're also looking at how you do operations. You know, when somebody is at your place, they can be able even to see how you do production, how you order, so many ways. So also, we have the sector or industry audits. So KRA targets industries considered high risk. So I've seen that sometimes when there's something in the industry, they'll come and map and say, we want to do real estate. And you find that all the companies under that, they are being audited. And at that point, when they are doing that, they're even using a benchmark. If this is the profit, they can even determine per sector, this is the profit margin that we are expecting. So they'll look at your company according to the sector standard that they have set when it comes to taxation. Transfer pricing audit. So for companies that have the transfer pricing policies, they'll focus on multinational companies, which has related parties in the country. So they can map up all the people, all the organization that has transfer pricing policy, and just look at the documentation and look at how they have executed those policies in their day-to-day transactions. Then we have special or investigation audit. This is where KRA will do investigation. It can be triggered by whistleblowers, or intelligence report, or suspicious patterns. There's always, and this one I've seen it work, especially for importers. So you find that there's a lot of investigation around that. And those intelligence reports for different organizations, or there's something that is going on. And an investigative audit is very thorough. So if you ever, and this is a department within KRA that does the investigation, it is very thorough and it can go beyond 5 years. So for the rest of the audit, we maintain the 5 years period. But when it comes to investigation can map even to 20 years since you started the company. So it is extremely thorough, and that's why we advise that an organization should handle their work and very ethically, so that you don't get to that level. So what are some of the common myths about tax audits? And this is a very interesting topic, as I mentioned. And this is a period where KRA does a lot of audits. So I'm also going to ask a question. Have you checked your email to see if you've been sent a letter for audit? So this is the time they do that. And I also mentioned some of the audits, special audits that you are seeing at this particular point, which you were not seeing before, so that you also get to understand how to work around that. So this is a period. So you can, if you had anybody who talked about audit, KRA audit, of course, this will be also on our YouTube. You can check and tell them to just listen and learn. So what are some of the myths? Only large companies get audited. What is the reality? All businesses can be audited. Remember, we mentioned that a company operating in Kenya should be audited. Sometimes there are triggers that would make KRA choose one company than the other one. And we have always talked about those triggers. And also so many other things, but a company should be audited. And this is something that we are seeing, especially this year. There was a department of micro SMEs, MSMEs, that was set up to do compliance check. So this is something that we have seen that we were not seeing before. Even companies that are below 5 million turnover are being audited, and they are being told, or you are supposed to do TOT and so many other things. So this is something that is changing. Remember when the Finance Act 2025, which did not introduce new taxes, it insisted that they are going to do a lot of compliance checks. So if your company has never gone through a compliance check, then this is the time to be ready. This is the time to be ready, because they'll start doing it. Filing return avoids audit. That's a myth. So when June we are planning about returns and running up and down, it's not a must when you do filing to avoid audit. Filing correctly matters, of course. Filing returns and being filed by somebody who understands tax. Not just an accountant, it's not just an auditor, but they understand tax. It is very important. So filing is not just a submission. I said it is one of the key areas, key triggers if you do it in the wrong way. So filing does not avoid audit. Only fraud triggers audit. So that's a myth also. In reality, audit can be random and routine. So, as we mentioned, as long as you're doing business in Kenya, you can be audited. Refunds always trigger audit when you're asking for a refund. Not all refunds, only high risk or large ones, especially refunds when you're asking KRA. There's always, especially the very first time, they want to see the company. What business do you do? Are you worth the refunds that you're looking for? So there is that questioning that happens at that particular point. And for somebody who wants to explore getting the refunds, you shouldn't be worried that when I ask for refunds, there will be an audit. You just need to organize your books properly, because there is that query, because they don't want to refund to you and you're not worth the refund. Audited ones, safe for long, that I was audited and now I'm okay. There can't be multiple audits as possible. So this is what I've seen. When KRA audits you, for instance, for year 2021, 22, those 3 years, when they come to audit again, they will start possibly at year 23, 24, going forward. But if they see information that was left out, on the previous period that were audited, they will go back and do advanced assessments. So it's not 100% guarantee. If new information which was not provided before, they find it, they can always come back. KRA targets big turnover firms only. That's a myth. Risk factors drive audit, not turnovers alone. So there are other factors, so many other factors. I talked about tax triggers. I also mentioned that compliance, we've seen compliance companies being even pushed to companies that are doing below 5 million, even individuals. KRA is even auditing individuals who have business names. So when you have a business name, you operate under a personal PIN. We are now seeing today that we are finding compliance checks even for those companies. So I want to talk about now the core top findings in KRA audit. Before I get there, I want to see on the chat what you have said so far. What is your myth? I've seen a few questions on the chat. So keep asking. I'll get the opportunity to answer, especially questions on audit. And for these notes I'm going to share, so there's a link on the chat that you're supposed to fill in so that you can get the notes. There's a link. So I've seen a few people say they had encountered at KRA checks only big purchases and sales invoices. Diana, of course, that is a myth. That is a very big myth. But by the way, in the past, which I can mention about 2-3 years ago, we never used to see some of these audits to very small companies that are doing 3 million, 2 million turnovers per year. We never used to see, but right now we have seen this. We are seeing this happening. A lot of audit that is going on. It doesn't even depend on the turnovers anymore. So let me go back to keep asking the question, I will answer. Let me talk about I'll answer. Let me go back to the notes. So when it comes to pay as you earn, what will be the findings? What will be the issues that KRA is going to raise on your pay as you earn? So most likely this is the issues that they are going to find. Unreported employees' benefits. So you have a house, but you have not taxed it properly, a car, utilities, school fees, These are things that the employer has provided to you as a benefit. And pay is very audited, especially for organization that has so many benefits. You go to an organization like institutions of learning, they have this so many benefits. There's housing, there is a bursary for their children, there is free learning. They will even find bursaries. I mentioned bursaries, laptops provided, so many things. So if you're having all these packages for the employees, it is very important to involve a tax expert to take you through to see how do you tax these employee benefits. And remember, when it comes to pay as you earn, this person, you are supposed to pay them 50,000. When you added the benefits, you're paying them 70,000. And you deducted whatever you deducted and you paid them. During audit, when KRA comes back and they tell you, for this person, you deducted less 3,000, it will be charged on the organization. And you cannot go back to the employees and tell them, by the way, this year I was supposed to tax you 3,000 more. So I'm going to deduct it in, for instance, they talk about year 2023. Now 2025, because we've now been charged, I'm going to charge you now. No. As long as you pay the employee, the burden of that mistake will be upon the organization. So I always advise for organizations that have so many benefits for employees, involve a tax expert. They go through the benefits and show you how you're supposed to tax them. Misclassification of staff. This is also something. Contractors versus employees. Contractors are those people that employees that come, we give them a contract. For instance, a year, 2 years, 3 months, 6 months. And also, there are also other misclassifications, like the ones we say, this one is a consultant and this one is an employee. And if you've been here before, I said for somebody to be termed as a consultant, there are parameters to check. And remember, for consultant, you do the withholding the 5%. But for pay as you earn, there is a graduated scale, and it can even go to 35%. But this contractor, this consultancy, you did 5%. So they benefited because of being a consultant and not an employee. So the parameters are, is this consultant having a desk in the office? Do they have an email for the office? Do they have a laptop that you have provided? Then do they come there on a daily basis? What are the terms of engagement? What do they do? If they check all that, they can push this person from being a consultant to an employee. So if you're having those people, it is very important to understand what work they do. Payroll records not reconciling with the pay as you earn. This is a big one. At the end of the year, the payroll, the salaries expense that we input on our audited records is 3 million, but the pay that you've been doing on a monthly basis for the 12 months is possibly 2 million. So there is an additional 1 million. And I always recommend, if that 1 million is from wages, record it as wages. And if it is wages, there is documentation, proper documentation for wages. Where you do a wages sheet, there is a name of the casual person, the ID number, the amount they were supposed to be paid, and they sign. Remember, when KRA comes for this audit, they will come for 3-4 years. So if you don't have some of this documentation, it takes you a lot of time to even remember who was paid at that particular year. And we're in year 2025, and they're asking details about year 2021. It is important to have all these records with you. So the payroll should match the pay return. Remember, if you're having employees who are below the threshold, the 24,000 threshold, you can also incorporate them in the pay as you earn return to show that you have extra staff in the organization. And remember, when we do pay, there is also the affordable housing levy. We have the NITA, the NSSF, the SHA, everything should fall under when you're talking about the employees. Failure to deduct pay as you earn on directors' remuneration and allowances. It's also very big that directors get money and they don't pay as you earn. And also another mistake that directors do, they withdraw money from the organization and they go do personal things, or there's a lot of withdrawals on the bank statement. Those withdrawals can be termed as money you paid yourself, and you can be charged pay as you earn. So I always advise the director to keep away from the bank statement of the organization so that there is no that room for directors' involvement. Expatriate tax issues. So you're having expatriates. These are people who are not Kenyans. They are non-residents. They are coming to work in the company. So failure to tax non-resident staff, you're not taxing them properly. They don't have a proper documentation. That's also something that we have seen. Unapproved pension, provident contribution taxed as taxable, treated as taxable. So when we have those pensions, it's also very important to understand contribution, to understand the process, the policy, how you go about them when you're doing the pay as you earn. The other issue is stock option, ESOP, not properly taxed. So if you have a system within the organization where your employees, you give them shares, because possibly of being good or performing, you give them shares of the organization or you buy them something, it is very important for them to follow the ESOP to be audited by a tax consultant to tell you the right taxes, because these are benefits that you're giving to your employees. So those are some of the pay audits, pay issues that can be able to hit you. So when I explain them, you can write somewhere what is your problem when it comes to pay, so that when you go back, you can recheck and see if you are doing it properly. This month, when I was talking about KRA audits, KRA recent updates, I explained a simplified pay system that was introduced last month. I don't know if some of us have been able to use it. So I give a case study. This is Commissioner of Domestic Taxes. Apologies, today I have a cough. Versus Karen Hospital Limited. So this is a case that you can be able to go back and actually read further. Income tax appeal. So when these cases are determined, whether it's at the tax appeal, at the High Court, they are always gazetted. So for us to be able to read them, to follow the precedents that have been stated and to see the issues raised. So that when we are advising client and also we are having similar cases, we can be able to see if we can win because of how the case was determined. So the pay assessed on locum, temporary staff, these are temporary staff payment that were originally treated and taxed as independent contractors, with the withholding tax, not employees. So they had staff which were termed temporarily and they were done withholding tax. So during the audit, they were supposed to be termed as employees. So mislabeling contractors as employees or vice versa has direct pay implication. So, and you can see that the case is going to tax appeal because of employees. And these organizations that have a lot of employees, you see, this is a hospital. Their main work is, their main expenses is pay as you earn salaries, service industries, hospitals, schools, a farm like what we are doing here. KRA, when they come to you, they'll be looking at how you do your pay as you earn. So it is very important for you to even engage a tax consultant to be able to guide you through and to walk through and to look at how you're doing it, because that will be the center. That will be the core of the audit. So that is pay as you earn. Let's go to VAT. What are the possible when it comes to VAT? And I've mentioned, if you've been following me, I've always mentioned that VAT is one of the biggest tax areas when it comes to audit. When KRA is auditing you, this is the main issue if you have VAT obligation. So what are some of the issues? Disallowing input VAT, invalid missing invoices, supplier not remitting VAT. And I'm hoping we are not having invalid invoices at this particular point. And some of these invalid invoices and missing trader invoices are some of the issues that are leading organization to what we call special VAT special table. So this is where you get a receipt, it would auto-populate, but there was no actual transaction that was happening. So they would disallow it, and it can also be termed as a legal issue, a criminal issue, and it can be really hectic for you to be able to solve it. Output VAT understatement, sales in accounts versus VAT return mismatch. And this is also something that we do, and it is very gray, where when we are filing income tax at the end of the year, like the way we filed in June, the 2024, the sales is like 10 million. But when we come to the VAT return that you did from January, February, we do what we call VAT assessment. We find it was 8 million. But when the auditor filed, especially if you talk to an auditor who does not understand tax, they ask you for bank statement, ledgers, and so many other things. They file at 10 million. That 2 million difference, you're going to be charged 16% VAT. So that mismatch, it's one of the biggest triggers for audit. So I always advise, especially when audit is being done, allow the audit to be done by an auditor who understands tax. Or if you want to use your auditor, you can, for filing purposes, the work can be handled by a tax consultant. Reverse VAT on imported service declared. Failure to account for VAT on supplies of exempt zero rated customers. So when we are doing VAT, and you have the other categories, you have the exempt category, you have the zero rated category, and the standard rated. All of them, you're doing them, all of them. So there's a customer who come, you do 16%. Mostly you find 2 of them, and the other product that you're selling exempt. This could be something like a wholesaler. You find wholesalers, especially for food. You find the items that are 16% like sugar. There are others like flour, maize flour, you find them, they are exempt. But when you come to filing, you file for standard rated only, you don't file for exempt. That is something. So at the end of the year, you find that for the VAT purposes, you filed 50 million, but you also had other exempt, which are coming to about 30 million. So the audit report at the end of the year is for 80 million, but your VAT is for 50 million. That mismatch is a trigger. And when it triggers the system, KRA want to ask, why is the 30 million coming in? So you have to provide the exempt invoices and so many. It's a long story before they. So it is important when you're filing VAT, file properly. If it is under 16, then the VAT return has the 3 categories: VAT, 16, 0 rated, exempt. If you're doing 0 rated, like export of exports, you file it under the correct category. Another thing that I also would mention, I hope we are using eTeams properly, because eTeams is supposed to auto-populate data automatically, auto-populate your sales, and then your purchases also auto-populate because you gave your PIN to your suppliers. But also eTeams gives us the leeway to go back to the our sales and add sales. So you can add sales, but you don't add purchases. So sometimes you may find that your eTeams Z report, it's giving you, for instance, 5 million for the month, but when you auto-populate data, it's giving you 3 million. So the 2 million is not transmitted to when you auto-populate. You go ahead and add the sales that has not been able to auto-populate. You can do that. But I've seen mistakes where an accountant who was supposed to add the 2 million on standard rate, on exempt, for instance, they do it on standard rated. And it creates a VAT payable. And then you come back and do an amendment. By the time that amendment is being corrected, you go through a full entire audit because of a mistake that you have done. So some of these are very sensitive areas to do it when you're sober and to understand what you're doing. And especially for VAT, I recommend it to be done properly, accurately, and especially for organizations that have huge turnovers, because this is the core. This will be the core of the audit. Failure to account for VAT on intercompany transactions. So intercompany transaction, when you're selling to a sister company, you find that when you're selling to a sister company, you didn't issue a VAT receipt just to save on VAT or something. Staff sales, when you're selling or staff, when you're selling to them, you discounted goods to employees. You did not even invoice them. You didn't raise eTeams. So some of these things are also dire. And how will they know? Of course, your banking will be too high than what you have done for VAT. Late or non-filing of VAT return, automatically penalties and interest. And also, all those issues on the system, you're filing VAT. Right now, the good side with it is auto-populating. So it auto-populates. Possibly you have cash flow issues, you don't pay on time, KRA keep calling you. Those calls, those ledger issues, that there are always arrears and what will always also trigger an audit. Will always trigger an audit. So also here, something that I've remembered I should have included is about eTeams. So when we talk about eTeams, it forms part, is a system to facilitate VAT. So at this moment, KRA is looking at how we are using eTeams, especially for people who did eTeams transaction for year 2024, but they did not file. They did not file their return, or they filed a new return. So KRA is calling you. And if you did that, check your email. They have sent you an email already. So what are some of the cases? So I say these cases are gazetted so that we can read them, understand the ruling, and be able to mirror them when we are handling tax issues. Roiro Feeds Limited versus Commissioner of Legal Services and Bold Corporation. So this is tax appeal. The number is there. Inconsistency between input VAT claimed by the applicant and its supplier's declaration of the corresponding invoices. So the VA for one person, this is a sale and purchases which are supposed to match, but they are different when it comes to the seller and the purchaser. Input VAT disallowed due to alleged supplier non-compliance. So the supplier was not able to, had not declared those invoices. Input VAT upheld tax payment documentation standard and filing timelines. So complete and timely documents, it's very important. Invoice plus ETR receipts can defend input VAT claims when the supplier compliance is questionable. So for them, they were able to demonstrate an invoice and an ETR that was provided, and they were able to provide those documentation. But the supplier who had given them those invoices had not declared them in the system, but because they had the proper documentation, the case was, they won the case because they had those proper documentation. So, and I also mentioned that, documents are very, very critical. So when it comes to VAT, right now, at least the system is able to match, it is auto-populating. But KRA, when it comes to VAT, they go back to see the suppliers. So when you write my name like Regina, I supplied you with something worth $1 million, they can go back to Regina's VAT to see, did Regina actually did that sale? So they can be able to verify that. So that is for VAT. Let's go to income tax. And I mentioned when I talk about this, you find your issues within the organization, which are some of the issues that are there so that you can be able to solve them. So income tax, under declaration of income, that is bank deposits, treated as sales. So this is where KRA asks you for your bankings. And they find mostly what we do, our bankings are so high. And us, when we are doing audit, we also check, we have to check your bankings so that we can advise you. So you find most people, the banking, and also banking will also include other deposits which are not business related. So when they pick that banking, they will turn all money in as incomes, as sales. So at the end of the day, they will be under declaration. And when it comes to income tax, they will charge 30% of that amount. So if you filed 10 million, they find that the banking has 15 million, that 5 million multiplied by 30%. Disallowed expenses, no documentation, personal or non-business nature. By the way, for income tax, the biggest issue is documentation. So for now, remember income tax, it is sales. And right now we are using sales which are provided by e-teams. I hope you understand how to connect VAT and income tax. They are interconnected very well. So we have the sales, we have the purchases, we have expenses. At the end of the day, you get your net profit. And from the net profit, you do the 30% corporation tax. So for expenses, the issues around expenses is documentation. So you have fuel worth 5 million, but you don't have any document. You have repairs, 3 million, you don't have documents. You have, so documentation is what you have wages, but you don't have documents for that. So it is important for income tax, documentation is the key to be able to win that case. Evidence of what you put there. Some organization will overstate their expenses. At the end of the day, when during audit, KRA will raise a sample. For instance, for fuel, they can say they want to see 1 month, or they want to see your ledger. Remember, they will ask you for general ledgers. They can be able to even look at those general entries and say, we want to see this receipt and this and this. And possibly you don't even have them. Then capitalization, this is interest disallowance due to excessive debts versus equity. So there's a way we do the calculation for then capitalization. So how the equity versus the debt, this is the equity of having the organization versus the debts. These are loans and everything. So that interest allowance, that interest disallowance, when you claim it there, they can be able to look at how you did the calculation and verify if it was done properly. Failure to withhold tax on professional fees, loyalties, non-residence payment. So withholding tax, when I come to you as a professional, as an auditor, you're supposed to do the 5%. This falls under income tax. So if you do not do that, even for royalties, even for non-residents, all that, they will do the withholding 5%, depending, there's 5%, 20% if it is non-resident, depending on what you are doing, they'll charge you. And remember, these people, you paid them and they left. So that charge will be upon the organization. Non-deductions of withholding tax on deemed interests. So loans from related parties. So if you have loans from a related party, if you're an organization in Kenya, you've been given by a sister company a loan, or even a sister company in Kenya, there should be interest, deemed interest. So that non-deduction of withholding tax, there is a withholding tax on that deemed interest, is also taxed. So when you get that related party, loan from a related party, also understand what does it mean? What are the taxes deemed? And how do I go about them? Capital versus revenue expenditure disputes. Capital versus revenue expenditure dispute. This is, for instance, repairs versus new assets. So when you buy an asset, and when you repair an asset, some people would treat it as capital, others will treat the repairs. There are some people who would treat the repair as capital to the asset, and others will treat it as expenditure, revenue expenditure. And sometimes some of these things will be used to really lower your profit. So there are some people who even buy something like a laptop or a tables, and they don't term them, they term them as capital, and they also come back and say, oh, you know, I paid for them. So they are also expenditure. So, and they are going to be used to lower your profits. So when during audit, those are some of the things that will be raised, and they'll be removed so that your profit is now reinstated to the proper position so that they can tax you more. Failure to pay installment taxes. So I know you know by now how to do installment tax. So if the company made a profit 2024, in the year 2025, which is this year, you're supposed to pick that profit, multiply by 110, and subdivide by 4, and you pay in the 4 installments for the 4 quarters installment. Then next year, before April, you do what we call balance of tax. So if you don't follow that formula, there are always interest and penalties. Under declared capital gains on property or sale of or share transfer. So capital gains also is under income tax. So you sell a property, you transfer your shares, and you don't do proper documentation on capital gain, remember you might not even do it, but 2-3 years to come, even for an organization, the organization that have land, properties, and this year you had land worth 50 million. Then next year you sold it and you didn't even do capital gain. You sold it. Then on your book balance sheet, you remove it. KRA will ask you where are the capital gains tax. So it is important to also follow and understand that. So I also have a case for income tax. This is St. Teresa Industry Limited versus Commissioner of Domestic Taxes. That's tax appeal. The number is there. Audited by the respondent for the period 2017 to 2020. So the tribunal highlighted the taxpayer burden to prove that a tax assessment is incorrect. Failure to provide sufficient evidence resulted to dismissal of the appeal. Without proper documentation, taxpayers struggle to overturn assessment. And I mentioned that for income tax, documentation is key. So you cannot go tell them, oh, I did not sell, oh, I don't have this. There are even people who say that my stock, I got stock theft. You have to demonstrate, bring evidence. Did you go to the police? Did you involve a lawyer? Did you take the people who stole to court? What was the procedure? Where is the case? You cannot, anything that you say, proper documentation evidence has to be put there. And it is evidence that that even KRA, if they go back to the court, they'll find that OB. If they go back to the police, they'll find that OB number, all those things. So it is very important. Proper documentation is very critical when it comes to income tax audits. Let's talk about excise duty audits. So do you have excisable goods? Do you have excisable goods within the organization? If you do, if you be audited, this will be the areas that they'll be looking for, and this will be the mistakes they are going to find. Misclassification of goods. Taxpayers classify goods in low tax categories to reduce excise. Remember, excise has so many codes, so many, we call them what, HS codes. And sometimes someone will pick one so that they lower, which is lower than the other one. So misclassification is one of the biggest areas, actually, biggest audit queries. Under declaration of production volumes, remember excise is on manufacturing of that good, the manufacturing. Manufacturing data, production versus declared excise often mismatched. So what was produced and what was declared under excise. And remember, because excise, we have the stamps. KRA will always audit you when you're getting the stamps. So if you're selling water and they give you like 10,000 stamps, by the time you're coming back to ask for more stamps, they're going to look at the system. They look at the stamps which you have activated. When you activate, the system can show. They also look at how you've done your excise, is done on a monthly basis, and also how you've done your VAT. It should also mirror how you have done it. And they might even see out of the 10,000, you activated like 8,000. So 2,000 is not activated. So they can tell you go back and activate. They can look at your excise and say, out of the 10,000 we gave you, we can see what you manufactured. Out of now excise returns that you do, what you manufactured is worth 7,000. So where is the 3,000? So excise is a tax because of the stamps especially, is something that can be done audited very oftenly. And you have to be really acquainted about it. Failure to pay excise on services, for example, betting, gaming, and airtime. Some of these things are now done automatically. So they are also, excise is also something that is systemized very well, that it can be done automatically. Excisable goods removed without stamps. So especially alcohol and tobacco industries. So this is where KRA does surveillance. So they'll go to the bars, to supermarkets, to wine and spirit shop to just check the stamping. And they're very active on that, by the way. So when they come to you and they find that they don't have the stamps, actually that is a criminal issue. And then there's a lot of, they get the product as evidence. It's a very big case. Failure to file monthly excise returns, non-compliance leading to penalties and interests. Penalties and interest. So that is the issue under excise duty audit. Those will be the findings. So I also have a case, Keroche Breweries Limited versus Commissioner of Domestic Taxes Tribunal Appeal. That is the number. The issue was classification of Vienna ice vodka and pineapple-based wines. So this was misclassification, and which KRA cited that this Vienna ice vodka was misclassified. And some of these classifications are very expensive. So if you use the lower, by the time they come, and remember, this is something that is done for a few years, could be 3-4 years. It can be very expensive to the organization. Ensure accurate product classification and be mindful of new product definition. Non-compliance can lead to large duty liability. And remember also excise codes, they keep changing. There's a lot of, if there's something that has so many, every year there's something coming up, is excise. So understand what is new, what is not happening, so that you also adjust accordingly if you're doing some of this product. So MRI, I hope I'm not talking alone. I have a team that is listening. Let me see if somebody is listening. Let me see if there's somebody is listening. So you can tell me a yes if you're listening. You can tell me a yes if you're listening. I can see Michael saying a yes. Sawa. I can see a yes, 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 yes. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let's go to MRI, monthly rental income tax. So if you're doing that, what are some of the tax issues? What are some of the tax? So after I go through this, I'm going to come back to the questions. So what will be the queries under landlords who are doing monthly rental income tax return? Failure to declare rental income. Landlord not declaring rental collection. KRA now uses data from utility companies, land registration, property managers, KPLC, water, all of them, to just come to know this. And there's a new system for MRI collection. It's called ERIMS. You can be able to Google it. So I guess we started using it a month ago, and it is going to bring all landlords in the net. So the KRA states that not so many landlords who are doing this. So it is very, very important to start doing it. Under declaration of rent, remember this is self-assessment. So you declare only the part of rent received, especially for cash collections. So if you collect rent, and you know MRI 7.5% is not cheap. So if you collect like 200,000, you say you collected 100. During audit, you'll be asked to provide the bank statement. So if the bank statement say more, you're going to be charged. So KRA cannot be able to come on a monthly basis and actually do a head count on how many houses have been paid. But they will check on your bankings how much money you received. Then incorrect tax regime applied, taxpayers incorrectly using MRI regime, 10% final tax instead of corporate tax where turnover uses. Okay, so this is, I apologize for that. This is 7.5%. And so if the turnovers for rent are exceeding 15 million per year, so that is somebody who is doing rent collection for about 1 million, 1.5 there per month, they go to the 30% corporation tax, 30%. For others who are less, you do the monthly rental income tax, 7.5%. And the 7.5% MRI is final tax. You don't do corporation tax at the end of the year. Late and non-filing of MRI returns, common in individual landlord, failure to withhold MRI from appointed agents. Property agents or tenants not withholding and remitting MRI as required. So also property managers can also be able to do MRI on behalf of the landlords that they are managing their properties, and they can be able to file on their behalf. So that is also important. So they are appointed agents. So there are some appointed agents, and KRA can also come and appoint you as a tenant who is staying in that building. And you're told, instead of paying rent to the owner, pay to KRA. So you can also be appointed as a tenant, to pay MRI on behalf of the landlord. So what is a tax case? So KB Cottages Nairobi Limited versus Commissioner of Domestic Taxes, tax appeal, that is the number, compliance check in tax affairs of the applicant for the period. So those were about 3 years, 2020, 21, 22. The business argued it had only one source of income. So they had hotel and restaurant, but they also had rental properties under the business, but they just said they had one income, which is hotel and restaurant, while the KRA insisted of two separate sources, that is rental and hotel business, disallowing certain expenses for rental portion. This dispute highlights the critical importance of clearly separating and accurately documenting different income streams, even within single business, to avoid significant tax liabilities and legal disputes. So for businesses, especially for businesses that have rental income, the iTax portal, when you're doing corporation tax, has the rental income segment. So you do business income, then you come and do rental income. And under rental income, if you collected, like for instance, 10 million, you now come and say the expenses under rental. And if you have profits, you get your profits there. And this is also for organizations that have commercial properties. So for commercial properties, The MRI is for residential property. We have commercial properties, which we do 16% of the commercial space, and we do corporation tax at the end of the year. So for that corporation tax at the end of the year, you are supposed to put it on the iTax portal different. Don't combine with the business income. So that most of the time you find when you combine, you make a loss. But when you separate, you find that the income tax, the rental income is having a profit, so you can pay taxes on it, whereas the business has a loss. So that is very critical. If you combine them during audit, KRA will come back and do them. So those are some of the findings. Those are some of the findings, top findings in KRA audits. And what are some of the best practices for taxpayers? As I mentioned, keep proper books of accounts and supporting documents, not just proper records. And support documents. These are receipts, they are contracts, anything that you have. It is very important to keep them, and you're going to retain them for 5 years. I know some of you are going to say it's going to fade. You can have a system of scanning and keeping them properly, because that is what is going to save you from the audit. Reconcile pay VAT income return with audited financials before the auditor files. Reconcile. Look at your VAT. Does it reconcile with your income tax? The salaries, does they reconcile with the payroll? Because those are one of the biggest triggers for audit. Match bank deposits with declared turnovers. Make sure the auditor looks at your bank deposits. The VAT that you have declared there, 10 million, is what you have done for your income tax, 10 million. Is it the same amount in your bankings? And if it is not, what do you do? Because you also have to get a remedy. File and pay all returns on time. So do them correctly, accurately, with somebody who understands tax. You say that is one of the biggest area for audit queries, how you've done all these returns. So do them, understand them, do them on time. Maintain transfer pricing documents for related party transactions. So if you have related parties and you're transacting, the transfer pricing policy are important, and they can be reviewed by a tax consultant like us to just see how they mirror with the activities of the organization. For landlords, declare all rental income, apply correct regime, and ensure agents and tenants remit withholding MRI for them that are being appointed. For excisable goods, make sure that they are classified correctly. Apply excise stamps where required. Keep accurate production and sales reports. Very, very important. Prepare audit defense files. That is important. And that is something that most of us don't do, especially during audit. One of the mistakes that we do, we don't do what we call risk assessment, where you look at your books, you look at your records, your software, the accounting software, and identify the areas where the taxes were not done properly, or there are risky issues, and try to solve them. Prepare audit defense file. This is invoices, contract, payroll, VAT schedules, everything. And the organization, when you do audit for them, you have to do the audit, the tax file, so that everything is just there. In the case of a query, everything is available. Train your staff, especially on tax, and I'm happy that you've been here to come and learn and understand the processes, understand where the errors come in so that you can correct them. And get professional early and consider ADR before litigation. So there are processes, I guess I can mention them. There's a process for, this is the flow of the dispute. How do we get to a place where you as a company, as a taxpayer, you get to be heard? So we call them tax dispute resolution mechanism. So we start with a tax decision. This is where you're audited, you provide the documentation, there is back and forth. They ask you for this, you provide, they give you findings, audit findings, tax audit findings, and say, according to us, for pay as you earn, you did not charge this benefit and this, so these are the taxes. For VAT, you lacked this and this and this, we disallowed this is a tax for this one. And each you can also defend and say, no, pay as you earn, we did it, this and this because of this is the evidence. So after all that, possibly KRA will see, possibly there's 5 million that you're supposed to pay. They issue a tax decision, they do an additional assessment on your iTax portal, and that's it. So for you as an organization, you can sit down. Why you okay with that finding? If you're okay, you can go ahead and do a payment plan and pay. Continue paying those taxes. But if you're not aligned, you can do an objection. That is the next place. And the objection, you're supposed to do it within 30 days. And then the objection is handled by a different team. So they will look at what the tax decision team did. You provide your evidence, and you defend your case, and it's supposed to be determined within 60 days. So it happens very, very fast. They issue an objection decision. They can agree, they can partially agree, they can disagree. So the options are still there, the three of them. And for instance, if they partially agree and you agree to it, you can continue to do a payment plan. But if you feel aggrieved, you can still go to appeal to the TAT. So you can appeal to the tax appeal tribunal, and you can wait. So the tax appeal tribunal operates like a court, and that's why you saw this many tax cases I was reading there. Mostly they came from the appeal, and you can also be heard. And also at this particular point, you can also apply to go to the ADR. As we talked about that, alternative dispute resolution, and you can also be heard. So there is a process also to follow. Of course, they will be working together with the TAT to just follow on how the process of ADR is going on. At that particular point, you might win, you might lose. And if you still lose, you can appeal to the High Court. That's how we see tax cases at the High Court. So you can also go to the courts because of that case. When it comes to us, for the many years that I've done tax training, tax litigation and representation to KRA, this process is very good, but it can be ambiguous, it can be expensive, it can be time-consuming to an organization. So I always recommend at the very first point, if you can be able to finalize the case, that is the best. But there are cases which, especially huge cases with a lot of issues that cannot be finalized at that particular point. The organization can be able to get justice through the process. And something that was possibly charged 100 million, you may find at the point where you're going to the ADR, to the court, it moves from 100 to 10 million. So the process works. It is It is a right for you as a taxpayer to go through the process. And I also recommend that if you're going through this tax dispute, involve a correct tax expert to help you through the process, especially people who understand tax. And that's who we are. So you can also involve us through the process. So for tax decisions, if you're at the point where you're doing tax decision, at the point where KRA has sent you a letter, we can do representation. For our clients, we do full representation where all the documents provided, all the documents required, we provide them as a company. So we are going to get documents from you. We look at them, we do audit, risk assessment, we answer all questions, and then we provide those documentation to KRA with and us understanding what could be the possible queries, questions, and being able to answer them. For me, I push for us to be able to answer and to be able to actualize that case at that particular point. But if we need to go to the objection, to all the other processes, we still do. And there is cases that I can tell you, if we go to objection, if we go to TAT, to ADR, we are going to win because there are also parameters. For instance, if the tax decision that was there, KRA came to your banking and they saw that your banking was underdeclared. So the bankings were high, for instance, with 5 million. And that 5 million, they charged you VAT. They also charge you corporation tax. Even if you go to objection to ADR, to tribunal, you're not getting help because that is the outlet, that is legal. There were money in the account. The only thing that you're supposed to do is to explain this overstatement is because of ABCD. It was because of debtors. It was money that was given as a loan. It was money that I bought land and I sold. I used the company account. You have to explain that additional, and it should be understood, and it should have evidence. So that is not a case that you bring all the way. You'll be wasting money and wasting time and getting stressed up. But there are cases, for instance, where you are supposed to get a tax exemption certificate, for instance, on a particular work that you did. And on that contract, it was written there that the contract is VAT exempted. And you continued working. At the end of the contract, could be 2-3 years, the contract ended and KRA came for possibly on the 4th or the 5th year. And they looked at how you did the business and they tell you, for all this contract money, we are charging VAT. And you tell them, no, the contract was exempted from VAT. They will ask you, where is the VAT exemption certificate? So for you, you did not understand that you are supposed to look for that certificate. So that is under tax decision. So for them, they'll say, we have been given rules. If you don't provide us with a certificate, we have to charge VAT. Sometimes you may go to the objection level and they tell you, we use the law, you give us at a certificate, or if you don't, you pay the VAT. You can go to the TAT. At the ADR, they can look at the facts. They can look at the facts of the case. They put the law aside and look at the facts and they say, and you present your case, you say, I was given a contract. These were the details that were provided on the contract that it was VAT exempted. I went to KRA, I wrote this letter to KRA requesting for certificate, but it was not responded on time. Then the company which was supposed to pay me, they did not withhold the 2%. They could have done it. Any job, especially you're doing with parastat or government, they always withhold 2% if it is vatable. They did not withhold. You can put parameters now, facts, why you did not do VAT, and they can look at those facts, and actually you can win the case. So there are cases that you can bring down and actually win. But there are cases that this can be taxing, and you're just supposed to end the case up there. So the final punch is good records today are your best defense tomorrow. So I'll end it at that particular point so that I can look at your queries. I can look at your questions. Audit is a very interesting topic. Someone is saying I'm breaking a lot. I don't know. And the way I've been talking. I hope I can get the notes. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Kindly register on the chat. There was a registration link. Kindly explain the last item on tenant being appointed to pay rental direct to KRA. Yes, those appointments happen. Those appointments, even for commercial building, those appointments happen, and you're supposed to, same way when you get appointed as a withholding agent. How can a landlord discontinue? Let me answer that. How can a landlord discontinue? Sorry. Let me see. MRI, if it was registered in error, you just apply. You just apply for that. You just apply. And of course, you're going to go through audit. They'll ask you for bank statements. So be ready to provide the bank statement to show you don't collect any rent. So that one will happen. And then when they are satisfied, the obligation is going to be cancelled. Of course, you can do the cancellation of the obligation online. Then they will request you for evidence. Then you're going to present your case and they are going to drop it. And it is a process. It might not happen in a day or 2 months or 3 months, but eventually it will. What happens when a tenant do not pay and you have already paid MRI? No, MRI, it is paid on the rent received. So what you received for that month, remember you're having so many tenants, you might be having 50. If you correct from all of them, you're supposed to give you 200,000. But that month you get 150. That 150 is what you're going to subject to MRI. So you're going to pay on the rent collected. Okay. All right. How many days do you have to file an objection to KRA after receiving the demand letter and also at the TAT? So objection, I mentioned it is 30 days. So from the day you receive that letter or that email, count the days there. 30 days you're supposed to do the objection, and they're supposed to give you to come back to you and to give you. So you should be having your documents ready for evidence. When you're doing objection over the system, you also have to attach the evidence there, and they're supposed to give you their decision within 60 days. So when you get the objection, you also have another, you have 14 days to apply to the TAT. So you also have to be very, very fast to do that application. If you are running a loss and the projection for the year clearly is a loss or profit less than 40, are you supposed to do anything in iTax in regard to installment tax or just ignore? Yeah, you can ignore, there's no problem. As long as you're going to make a loss for the year, there's no problem. Can travel agents get VAT exemption certificate, or who is eligible for exemption certificate? Travel agents, no. So for any company that is doing ticketing, there are businesses that are VAT exempt. We mentioned there are companies which are zero rated, exempted, or standard rated. So if you're in a category of exempt, you're not supposed to have an exemption certificate. So if you paid installment tax and made a loss, how do you utilize the claims? You can utilize them in the year that you're going to make a profit. The only thing is that if you paid for corporation tax, you have to match with corporation tax. So on the other year that you're going to make a profit, that is the time that you're going to utilize them. I'm in Nairobi. How can I get recommendation letter for refugee from refugee requesting for KRA PIN? I want to get KRA PIN and I have refugee ID for far period and still active. Kindly go to KRA. Kindly go to KRA customer care. They are going to help you out. They're going to help you out. Okay, so I'm reading your questions. There's somebody who is asking about the recording. The training is on my YouTube channel, Dr. Regina Kingori, CPA. You can go there and also subscribe, and you can also see other tax training that you have done before. MRI is 7.5%, yes. Are we allowed to deduct withholding taxes that are in iTax ledger for the year as we pay for installment taxes? No, you cannot be able to deduct, but you can do your calculation, Stephen. So if the withholding already, withholding, and this withholding taxes is for income tax, I'm hoping. So there's a withholding for income tax. There's also withholding for VAT. Withholding for VAT, that utilized on a monthly basis. But for income tax, because you're going to use it at the end of the year when you're filing, you can do a calculation every month. So if you find on the system the withholding is, for instance, 100,000, and for you, you pre-assumed that on that installment period, you are supposed to pay 150, you can pay for 50. You can pay for 50, and then you're going to do that calculation at the end of the year when you're filing the return. Now including the installment plus the withholding. Installment is done for companies that made a profit in the previous year, yes. If you paid an installment, okay, I've mentioned that. Is fuel of staff vehicles considered a benefit, or to what extent can they be expensed as company item? So this fuel is used to do what? Were they going to sell product and then you fueled their car so that they can move around? A benefit comes in when that fuel is put there for the benefit of the employee, possibly to be able to be going home and back and to do their personal issues. But if the fuel is being fueled for that vehicle to be able to facilitate, for instance, sales, facilitate operations, that fuel is termed as an expense to the company. So make sure that you have proper documentation of it. Make sure that every time you have documents on it. How do you go about payment of airtime and internet to employees who work at home? Is not a benefit, as I mentioned. You're giving them airtime so that they can be able to call customers, and everything is to facilitate the business. So make sure that you have proper documents for them and you expense to the company. So I'm filing for TOT correctly every month, but I'm not using eTeams. What could be the repercussion? There are no repercussions. Remember when eTeams was introduced, we were told that all businesses should be having eTeams. And we were even introduced to eTeams, which is non-vatable eTeams. So if you are below the 5 million threshold, you can still use eTeams to do your business and also file the TOT. So I've not seen an issue in that. And remember, 2024 is the first year that we used eTeams throughout the year. So we are going to see, if you come for the tax trends, I'll be talking about how eTeams is shaping how KRA is doing audits. So we're going to see. Remember, they had even stated that all our purchases and expenses should be eTeams compliant. So we are going to see the audits, if they are going to push for that. And some of these things like TOT, eTeams, how do you go about them? I'll mention them as they take shape. Is OB number enough for police station as evidence if goods are stolen from business premises? Or are you required more documentation in case you want to reduce stock in, in the audited accounts? That is Gabriel. Of course, it means, Gabriel, there were no stock loss. So I mentioned when there's a stock loss or theft, you have to have the OB. Did you go to the court? That case, was there an audit that was done, a forensic audit? What did the auditor say? Did you go to, who was the staff involved or other people? It's a OB number is not just enough evidence. Can you help me understand turnover tax versus income tax? TOT and income tax. So TOT, turnover tax, is a final tax. Mostly it was incorporated for small businesses. Of course, we see even businesses that are doing 10 million still sticking to it. Sometimes it's quite expensive. It is done on a monthly basis, 1.5% on your gross sales. For income tax, that you do at the end of the year, where you include all your sales, you remove your purchases and your expenses, your profit, you charge 30%. So Frank, you can talk to us. I'll give us your number. I'll give us our number so that sometimes it may require more explanation for you to mirror how you do your business. So my co-host, who is my co-host, sorry. So Charity, you can continue answering some of the questions on the chat. I can see a few more issues, more questions, and keep writing them. Keep writing them. I want to go back so that I can mention who we are. I see we are at 12. We are RWK and RWK Africa, and we do tax audit advisory, and we can be able to work with you as an organization in your especially when we are dealing with the audits, tax audits specifically, because that's what we are talking about today. So we can do a representation to your we can do a representation during a tax case, and we can go through the entire process. So kindly go, I want to give you our number. We also do a lot of tax master classes, audit and bookkeeping, and we have an audit and bookkeeping masterclass that is coming in. That will be 8th to 12th September. We're going to have an online and a physical training, and we have a 25% discount. So we are going to do it at 15,000. You can take advantage of it and come learn with us. We also do a tax health check. Tax health check. This one I would recommend to any organization that is here. And particularly because of the tax queries and so many queries, I would want to offer. We have 10 slots. We are offering it at 20,000. So if this is something that you'd want us to do for you, we are going to go back for 2 years. We are going to check how you've been able to do your taxes. And then we're going to answer all your questions, any tax questions that you might be having. You can contact us on the 0728 89 74 29. So before we go, there's something that I would want to introduce to you. We have an accounting software, and we incorporated the accounting software because when we started doing tax, we realized that most of our tax issues were coming from bookkeeping issues. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, why don't you have your records kept properly? They cited complexity of accounting software. So we went back to see how we can be able to maneuver and give a solution that it's workable. It's a local solution that is helping entrepreneurs. It is very simple. My Accurate Book software, you can be able to go on Google Play Store, and it has 1 month free trial. You can look at it, engage with it. It is very user-friendly. And I'm going to invite one of my colleagues for 5 minutes to just explain what it does. We also have, I've gone back to your questions. We also have a calendar booking. You can do a calendar booking with us. We can do I believe on the link for notes, there's a slot where we say calendar booking. You can tick there, and we can give you free consultation for 30 minutes. It is a call, or it can be on Google Meet or Zoom, 30 minutes consultation, free of charge, especially for people who have very personal questions, and there's something that you'd want to understand more. We also have that number, the 0728. You can always call, and somebody will be there to answer a question. Somebody will be there to answer your questions. So I don't know, John, if you're available. It was a pleasure hosting this. I hope you have learned something. I hope you have learned something. So you can tell me if you've learned something on the chat. And audit should not scare you. And if you can't handle them, you can have our number 0728, and you can talk to us. We are going to help you through the entire process of audit and make sure that you win. So I hope you stand at a better position to be able to answer KRA questions. Kindly repeat the number. My co-host, you can write the number on the chat, 0728. 0728 89 74 24. So thank you so much. I see a lot of appreciation on the chat. God bless you. And I pray that your business will continue growing more and more. For the people that come in to just learn and to be able to advise their clients much better, I've also seen that we also get so many people who are doing the business, who are doing consultancy, just coming to learn, continue learning, and so that you can do proper advisory. Karibu sana, John. God bless you. Have a lovely afternoon. So kindly give John 5 to 10 minutes to be able to take you through.
Hello, guys. Hope you had an interactive session with Madam. So I'm David. So I'll take you through our Accurate Books accounting software. Today you are able to learn about simplifying compliance and also KRA audits with Madam. So we present you a solution with my Accurate Books, which is an accounting software and which helps you in also bookkeeping. So from the learning with Madam.
Okay, Joachim, a minute.
Yes.
I've seen somebody who has written a question so many times, even with color.
Okay, you can take over.
Let me just answer this. I have a scenario where a tax assessment was issued and a tax demand followed, yet there was no pre-assessment notice that was issued by KRA. How do I handle such? So Gabriel, when KRA keep calling you, most of the time how I see this happening is they were keep calling you, they were asking for documentation, they were sending an email. When there is no proper response or they kept looking for you, you always find something like that happening, where an assessment is done and demand is done. So you can go ahead and do an objection. And if the 30 days are over, you can do a late objection. Immediately you find no email, no communication either. Go ahead and do an objection. And I wonder, how did you see the assessment? Because you saw the assessment on iTax. So possibly your email is not going through, your phone number is not going through, and they were trying to get you. So the next thing is to do an assessment on your iTax portal, because when they do an assessment, you just see it automatically. So kindly do an objection. You can talk to us. We can help you on doing the objection and on raising the case. We can also cite that proper areas were not followed. So Gabriel, you can take our number and you can continue the conversation. Karibu Joachim.
Okay, thank you again. And also welcome to this part of my Accurate Books accounting software. So you have been able to learn about the challenges you experienced during the KRA audits, such as missing and also inaccurate financial records, poor tracking of invoices and also your expenses, also unreconciled stocks, manual errors in invoices and also receipts, and also lack of real-time financial reporting. So these are most of the challenges which have been able to help us develop these Accurate Books accounting software. So for around 3 minutes, I would give you some time so that you may be able to search it and also download it to your mobile phones or access it to the web. I'll give you so that we can move ahead together and also be able to interact with this as we go on. So I can give you around 3 minutes. For those who are using a mobile phone, you can access it on Play Store. I'll share a link on the messages so you can be able to download it, and also on those on the web. There is a link I will share so that you can be able to access it through the web and also register so that I can take you through the system. So the link has been shared on the chat box, so you can access it on the Play Store. And also those on using a laptop or an iPhone, the link which is coming now, or to access it through the web from my, so that I can take you through the system and also understand how it will help you manage financial records, track your income, avoid the manual errors in the invoices and also in the receipts, and also having lack of real-time financial reporting, which is a big challenge to many businesses currently. And with KRA always on the ground, it becomes a challenge to many businesses. So I'll give you like 3 minutes, then we can continue. On the web, this is the outlook of the software for those who are using the web and computers. So this is the outlook. is very interactive outlook so that you can be able to understand more about the system easily. You can share on the chat box if you have managed to download the application from the Play Store or you have been able to access it from the web. So as you continue downloading and also accessing through the web and also registering, some of the advantages of having my accurate books is for the first key point is having digital records, keeping them online. So for this software, it's a web-based application. So all your records are stored safe on the software, and which is a digital platform. So the transaction, there's no chance of losing your records or having some missing records. So the moment you create a record online, you'll always have it whenever you are. You can always log in from any device and access your records. And also on the part of invoicing and also receipting, you can be able to track them and also automatically generate compliant documents, which sometimes are required by the KRA. So it's a system you can be able to track all your invoices, receipts. You don't have to have a lot of files in your office. The system does it for you, and you can always access it and also download reports whenever you need them. And also on the expense management, which I've realized many people have been having a challenge on for tracking of your expenses. So you can be able to categorize your expenses for reporting, which becomes easy, and also for record keeping. On the part of stock management, you can easily manage your stock, set reminders to be notified when you have to adjust your stocks, and also when you have, also it prevents revenue leakages from theft through the stock management so that you can be able to track your stock anytime you need to check through the stock. You can always download a stock report and compare it with the stocks in the stores. And also on the reports and statements, you can always generate your report, that is a profit and loss, balance sheet, and also your creditors and also your debtors reports and your sales reports. This enables you to have all the documents you may require at a particular time whenever needed without any challenge. And also the key point is having access to the web, to the software whenever you are at any time. So you can always log into your phone and check the performance of your business whenever you are, all from the. So you basically carry your office on your pocket by having a mobile phone. So that system tracks everything for the business, and you can always have your working office whenever you are. So I will just go to the system immediately and take you through it. So this is basically the outlook of the software. So I can show you some of the key features from the software, the POS. You can easily track and process your sales. And also you can be able to manage customers' transaction at one place. So whenever a customer makes payment through your M-Pesa, your till number, your cash, it will be able to reconcile them for your bookkeeping purposes. So whenever it's paid through the cash payments, you can be able to have a report for cash payments. You can also have records for M-Pesa payments and also bank transfers. So it becomes easy for your reconciliation of your revenues. and also for your bookkeeping purposes. The other part is customer management. You can be able to build and maintain your customers in the system so that you may not lose some data of your customers when anytime. Anytime you want to access a particular customer, you can always log into the system, look for that customer, have the customer's details or the business details, and also you can also be able to transact any time the customer comes into your premises. The other key feature is the item management, that is the stock controls. So you can be able to track your stock, set reminders whenever the stock is going low so that you may be able to adjust your stocks. So that prevents revenue leakages from theft and also helps you manage your stock more efficiently and more professionally. The other key part of the system is payment integration. So we have been able to integrate M-Pesa, bank transfers, cash, and also currently we have a wallet that helps you manage your revenues of the businesses accurately so that any transaction in the business, you can always be able to track it in the wallet. The other key feature on the system is the multi-user access. So you as the business owner, your employees can have access to the system, but with limited permissions, which you as the business owner, you have to set them so that they can be able to access the system and also give them the areas they can be able to access on the system. So it keeps your data safe, maybe from your employees. So you don't have the risk of your business data being shared outside there. So you'll be able to protect your information from your employees. And also the employees will have the segment where they can only access the information you have given them permission to access. The other part is the system is cloud-based, so there is no chance of you losing your documents. The moment you log in from either your phone, your computer, your iPad, you can always view your performance of your business. You don't have to go to the business premises to see how everything is going. You just log in and see what the performance of your business, what has been happening during the day. So I will log into my account now. So let me log out so that I can log in again. So currently, because I have an account for a business that is registering in the system, you will have to sign up. So this is the process of signing up in the system. So you'll be able to give your first name and last name and also your business name and also the business email and create a password, your location, the currency you want. Currently, we have a multi-currency that is for cash and also for USD, that is a dollar. And also you will be able to have a chance to input your logo and to always be on every invoice and also in every receipt. So that is basically how you can be able to sign up to the system. So currently, because I have an account already, I may be able to log into the system and also be able to show you the key features from the system and give you a brief view of the system and also a feel of the system. So I may just go back. So I have already an account. I may be able to log in. The system is very easy to use and also to understand. So there's no challenge there of you understanding the system. And also we usually have regular demos so that you may be able to be at par with the system. So this is basically the system. So the moment you log into the system, this is the view you will be able to get, the dashboard. You can have a look at it. Maybe I'm going too fast. So this is the dashboard analytics. So it gives you your sales, your expenses, your purchases for that particular month, and also gives you the performance of the business that is on the profit and loss. You can also have a graphical representations when every particular day. And also on this, the moment you log in on the dashboard, you can always know the amount of data you have outside there, so that you, and also it has a reminder so that you can always track your data from outside there, so that they can be at par with your business. So this is basically the dashboard. So the key features from the system is the item management, and also there is a part of sales, purchases, expenses, customer management, reports, and management. On the items management, here you will be, okay. So on the item management, it's where you can be able to input your stocks. So currently I have some stocks from my business. So here you can be able to input. The system is for both a product-based business and also for a service-based business. So you can be able to input all the services you offer, and also you can be able to input all the products you offer. So you can be able to understand the stock levels in the system, and also the services you currently offer in the system, and also their pricing. So you don't have a challenge of saying I run a service industry, so this, it is all catered for from the system and also the product. So the moment your goods go low, you can also set your reminders so that you can be able to know when to adjust your stocks, and also manufacture more. So adding an item is very simple. You just go to the add item tab, and also you can be able to import items from from an Excel template. You can populate it and upload it to the system. So the other tab on the system is on the sales. So on the part of sales, you can be able to make an invoice, a receipt, and also be able to issue quotations, credit notes, and also be able to receive payments for customers who make payments partially. There are some customers who come and pay halfway, so you can be able to track it from the system. If it's they have placed a deposit, you can be able to track it from the system. And the moment they make the full payment, you can always receive payments from the system, which is keeps the tracking more better, and also keeps your transactions for reference in case there is an issue. On quotation, you can be able to create quotations and download them and send them to the business you want to supply some items to, and or offer services to. So basically creating an quotation is very simple from the system. And also the other part is of making an invoice. It's very simple. You can always create your invoice and share them, and also print them from either POS or from your printer. And also the moment you go to sales and invoices, it gives you the track and performance of the business currently, the revenue generated and also collected, and also it gives you the total invoices that you have been able to issue out. So the receipts is the same way. You can be able to access the number of receipts issued, the products sold through the receipts, and also the services you have been able to render, which is, and also you can be able to give out credit notes whenever need arise. And on the part of receipt payments is where you can be able to collect payments from customers who you have issued invoices to, and they would want to make payments for their invoices, or the customers who have been able to make partial payments. So like for this customer called House 2, I can be able to collect payment which is due. So the customer had a invoice of 4,000, was able to place a deposit of 1,000. So you can see the system tracks your balances from your customers, So the customer has a balance of 3,000, and maybe the customer comes into the store today, makes a payment, so he can receive payment immediately. So I just go to payment. I select the payment method the customer wants to pay through. So maybe I can select M-Pesa, bank transfer, or cash. Maybe he wants to pay through cash. I can select cash. Then the payment status, I can take full payment or partial again. So when I select full payment, now I can be able to collect the payment. Now I can collect the payment, and immediately the customer is removed from the data list and goes to invoices, and it shows the customer has paid fully. That particular customer, we can look, I think is on the other page, Austin. So when you look for that customer, you will find the customer has fully paid these dues. So the other part on the sales, I think we have gone on the whole part of sales. The other part is purchases. Purchases, you can also be able to create purchase orders. You can also make purchases from your distributors, and also be able to issue debit notes for even need addresses for maybe some items which you are supplied, which had some defects. You can always issue some debit notes to the supplier, and also you can have a system where you can manage your suppliers from the system. So you can be able to input all your suppliers in the system so that you can always have the data of your suppliers from the system. So on the expenses, this particular, you can always have all your expenses at one place for reconciliation and also for tracking, and also to understand where most of your expenses go within the business. So you can be able to input all your expenses, and also whenever you go to expense management, you can be able to understand the amount of expenses you have been able to incur that particular month, and if they are paid, and also if you have not paid for that particular expense, and also the total number of expenses you have been able to incur in that month, so that you can be able to understand how you can be able to manage your expenses better, and also to avoid incurring more expenses in your business, and also to keep track of them and understand where your money goes to. On the tab of customer management, these are CRM for your customers. So you can be able to input your customers, both individuals and also for business clients. So you will have them in one place. So you can be able to keep them safe. You can never lose them whenever you put them on the system. So you can always have access to your customer lists and also their email and also their location. So it becomes easy for your tracking. And also to in case you have deliveries to make, you can be able to understand where that particular customer is based. Same is on the reports. Working on the reports, you can be able to, so on the and do a reconciliation. On the profit loss, you may also you'll be able to create a within the business for that particular timeline that you may need the particular report for. And also you will be able to have debtors report so that you can be able to track the debts outside there, so that you can always have a reminder and also go for collections. And also creditor for the same, so that you may understand the suppliers you owe and also the dates they owe you for. The other part is sales report. You can always have your sales report whenever you need it, and also understand if the sales have been paid for, unpaid for, or partially paid for. The system gives that data for you at a fingertip. So this system basically makes you have full information of your business. Because as Madam has particularly said in the previous session, good records today are your best defense for tomorrow. So basically having your records in one place and having access to them whenever you need them is very key for your business and also for your reports and also for any time you may need them for defense, either for tomorrow. So that KRA are always on the business, so you can always, whenever whatever they need from your business, you can always be able to generate it and issue them, so that you can always be on good books with the KRA and also understand your business performance better. The other part is user management. In the user management, you can have, if you have branches, you can have input the branches on the system. If you have 3, 4, 5 branches, you can always have them in the system. And also you can have your employees that are usually in those particular branches in the system and also give them the permission they usually perform in those particular branches. So you can always add users, his name, phone number, email, and also be able to assign them to those particular branches and also assign them the roles they particularly work in the branches. For this particular, there is cashier, there is the accountant, and also there is the salesperson. And so you can be able to limit the permission from the system. Maybe we can, let's see. So when you go to the assign permissions, you can be able to limit the particular permission they can have from the system. So you can maybe deny them permission for your expenses, your branch management, your user management, and also your reports. So if you want them to perform, but there's the task of sales, they can also only have that permission. And if it's a guy who runs the store, you can give him the permission of the inventory to manage the stocks only. And also depends with the particular role that particular worker performs. So you can give them permission according to their assigned role. So this basically keeps your data private from your employees and also being it shared out there. So you can have control of your data from your business, even on the system. So basically this system is suited for any kind of business. For the last 1 year, we have been able to have around 800 businesses who are running the system and it has been seamless. So we would want you to join the system and also so that you may avoid these issues of with the KRA that you have been able to understand today, like the missing and inaccurate financial reports, poor tracking and of incomes, and also unreconciled stocks and the manual errors. So this system basically does away with those particular challenges and gives you your space of so that you can be able to breathe and also giving you a digital records keeping so that you can be able to manage your data at a fingertip. Oh. So if you have a question, you can input in the chat box. I'll be able to take a few questions, and also you can fill in the form so that we can have an engagement after this. I can give you a call so that you may be able to understand the system better and also have virtual demos. So feel free to ask questions in the system on the chat box. I can start by checking the questions which have been asked from the web. So the first question is, can I get a payroll demo? On the payroll, we are rolling it out by the end of this month, so you can be able to access it through the system by the end of this month. How much does the MyCreditBook software cost? MyCreditBook software is very user-friendly, and also the costing is very okay. So the costing for a year goes for 5,500. Currently, we are running on a discount. So if you can be able to have the system within the next 2 months, you'll be able to enjoy that discount. So John, the system currently we charge 5,500 for the new customers currently because we are running on a demo. So you can take that chance and have the system before the before the discount elapses. The next question was asked by have you worked on opening balances? Yes, of course, we have been able to work on opening balances and also the balance sheet will be out within the end of this week. So you can be happy to review it from the system. So I think I have your number, I'll give you a contact. So Arnold Odhiambo, I can see you are requesting for our contact for my accurate books. Check it on the chat box, I'll be able to share. So the discount is that if you can be able to review if you are applying to have it for paying for every particular month, you'll be able to pay 500, but if you take for a year, you'll have a discount of 18%, so you'll be able to pay 5,500 instead of paying 6,000, so you'll be able to have 1 month free. That had been asked by Andrew Wafula. Okay, the app doesn't have an offline, it is online because it's a web-based application, and also we would want a business owner to have real-time updates of the business. So the software is online, so there is no offline. So you can only access it online through the web, the application, and also through your computer. No, I know the system cannot outlive the creators. The system has a lot of integration, and also we have a lot of people who are working on it. So be sure the system will be seamless, and also we can be able to accommodate even over 1,000 businesses. So don't worry about it outliving its creators. Wafula, give me a grade on the web. So on the web, okay, I can go back. So on the web, I think I've been logging through my web. So these are the particular key points from the system: the dashboard, the item, the sales, purchases, expenses, customers reports, and also the user management, and also the branch management. So for Fuller, I can give you a virtual demo to understand every aspect of the system. That is how you go about creating an invoice, inputting a stock, creating a credit note, creating a debtors, and also and how you then generate the reports. So feel free to register on the form, and I'll be giving you a call immediately after this. So do a demo. I will walk through with you through the system so that you can be up it on your business and also understand this perfectly. Arnold, you have asked about if there is a transition process in the migration from QuickBooks Online. Currently, Arnold, we are working on that. So the transition, be sure to check it very soon. We'll be having that. So currently we don't have it, but we'll be working on it. But in the meantime, you can have the system and start running it in your business. Before that, it will really help you, and it is easy to understand even for your, maybe if you have employees, they can have a better grasp of the system more quickly. And also the charges we are charging the system are very fair for our businesses. So be free to check it out. Yes, Wafula, the system can basically fit any type of business, even a non-profit organization. You can all use organization and also the services you offer. So be free to check it out, and I will give you a call immediately after this so that I can make you understand about the system and also how you can be able to incorporate it in your organization, and also take you through it until you get every grasp of the system. Any other question? So be free to fill in the form, and I will give you a call so that we can have an engagement about the system. And also I can give you virtual demos, and also if you are around Nairobi, I can give you physical demos in our office in Westlands. So be free to fill in the form, and also make sure you download the system and also register so that I can be able to give you a call and also share more insights about the system. So make sure you register.